I understand what getting blown out of bed means now.
Oh my God. Oh my God, another explosion.
Still many unanswered questions tonight and even some confusing responses. We're continuing our coverage of the TPC plant explosions in Port Neches. We're sorting out some of the information we just learned at a news conference about 2 hours ago with TPC Group, the EPA, and city and county officials. Today, many tried to get back to their homes as the smoke continued to fill the air around the plant and in the area, and the mandatory evacuation order for the 4-mile radius is still in play. Now, about 27 hours after the second explosion, the fire is not contained, nor has a cause for the explosion been given. Or that fire, let's specify here, it is contained, it is not under control. That's what Judge Jeff Brannick said earlier today at a press conference that was held to address the state of the evacuation and possible explosions at the TPC plant. The evacuation, as I just mentioned, is still in place with hopes of people returning to their home tonight and tomorrow after an assessment of the property. County Judge Jeff Brannick, Port Neches Mayor Glenn Johnson, and the TPC Director of Health, Safety and Security, Troy Monk, fielded questions from reporters today. They said monitoring is being done around the clock for air. When asked which chemicals were stored in which tanks at the TPC plant, County Judge Jeff Brannick said this.
We don't know. We know that they have butane, raffinates, and but we don't know which ones were in which tanks, and because a lot of those are electronic, and with the loss of power at the plant, they didn't have the ability to make that determination.
Tonight, TCEQ says it's conducting handheld monitoring in the area near the explosion. TCEQ says the instruments they're using, they provide instantaneous readings for various compounds, which includes VOCs, which stands for volatile organic compounds, carbon monoxide, benzene, and butadiene. TCEQ warns elevated levels of VOCs from the plant are odorous. Short-term exposure to high concentrations of VOCs can cause eye, nose, and throat irritation, shortness of breath, headaches, and nausea. And Fox 4's Tiffany Murphy spent some time this afternoon scouring OSHA's website, along with reading through documents from the Environmental Protection Agency. And Tiffany, we both listened to that news conference today and were confused at some of the answers that were given. And now you have some more troubling information to share.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Kim. So these are just some of the pages that I printed out from the EPA's website this afternoon. So let's take a look at some of the biggest things that stand out. In October 2015, a work request was written that identified the area as presenting the potential for a leak. But then 2 weeks later, TPC's emergency response team identified that same area, and there they identified a chlorine leak because they say the line was corroded. The EPA says that leak happened over a 48-hour period, during which time 900 pounds of chlorine gas was released. And also during that time, TPC's air monitors never identified a leak. Those, among other high priority violations we found, along with not adhering to the Federal Clean Air Act, and according to CBS Houston, the plant was fined $275,000 for violations that the EPA deemed as preventable. Now, when it comes to OSHA, we found the latest OSHA safety inspection in December 2017 and their last safety review, February 2018. Earlier today at the press conference, a reporter asked about previous violations at TPC. That same question was also posed on Wednesday night during the press conference. Troy Monk is the Director of Health, Safety and Security for TPC. He had this to say.
Personally, can't speak to that. I'm not in plant management there. I'm in the corporate office. I can get someone to follow back up with you regarding details for those violations.
And tonight, that question, it's still not been answered. Other questions that have not been answered: what are in the tanks on the TPC property that either have burned or are still standing? Judge Jeff Brannick says, quote, "We don't know which ones were in which tanks, and because a lot of those are electronic, and with the loss of power at the plant, they didn't have the ability to make that determination. But earlier this afternoon, just a short time ago, I spoke with someone, Kim, with more than 2 decades of experience in the petrochemical industry. They tell me no matter what, there are blueprints, electronically or physical blueprints, even if it's off-site. When you do an inventory of a tank, you know what specifically is inside those tanks. That information was all public before 9/11, but obviously due to national security, it's since been removed. We are still working to find out for our viewers in Southeast Texas what is in those tanks. Kim?
Absolutely, Tiffany, because that is some troubling information that you shared. We thank you for your work tonight. Now let's go out to Fox 4's Angel San Juan, who is live in Port Neches near the plant. He's keeping an eye on what's going on in the area. So, Angel, what are you seeing?
Well, Kimberly, a lot of folks, especially since it is Thanksgiving, are just wondering when can we return home. And the county judge, during that news conference that we've been covering, he said that he is not planning to lift the mandatory evacuation until he is totally convinced that citizens will be safe. But he also told us that that decision could come as early as tomorrow morning when he meets with emergency officials who are dealing with what you see behind me. Yes, we have seen the smoke now for days, and as you can see, it does appear thick right now since it is night, but we can tell you that it does feel a little bit better than it has in recent days throughout. So we'll know more if the judge is ready to lift that mandatory evacuation tomorrow morning. But we can tell you that TPC has set up that hotline number for damages if anyone suffered damages because of the explosion. Well, now it's been extended for evacuation costs. I asked if people can call and make claims for any costs they might have because of hotel expensive or anything else, and I was told that yes, call that number, and that hotline number is 1-866-601-5880. Once again, that's a hotline number for TPC, 1-866-601-5880. And now you can report any claims you might have because of this evacuation order. And I can tell you there's not a lot of folks here in Port Neches. They have heeded the word of the mandatory evacuation, but there are folks that did stay and some folks who are coming back early. And the mayor basically said they don't have the manpower to really prevent that, but what they can do is make sure to urge caution. They advise you to use caution if you are in your home, shelter in place until that mandatory evacuation order is lifted. And one more thing, there is a curfew. That curfew goes into effect at 10 o'clock at night. So far, the only thing that's happened is the police chief says last night they did stop a car with a couple of folks inside and they had illegal drugs. They made 2 arrests. Those have been the only arrests made since this curfew has been implemented. We're live in Port Neches. Angel San Juan, Fox 4, working for you.
All right, Angel, thank you for your reporting. And right now, as Angel mentioned, some residents are still trying to head back to their homes in Port Neches at this hour, even still with that mandatory evacuation order in place. And they're trying to have somewhat of a normal Thanksgiving. Fox 4's Tan Radford joins us live also from the Port Neches area. And Tan, residents are back. How are they dealing with the aftermath?
Kimberly, take a look at this large cloud of smoke right behind me. Residents here tell me it's a major issue for them here getting back into their homes and recovering, but they believe that TPC and first responders have it under control. This morning, residents made their way back to their homes, many to gather their belongings and some to stay, repairing windows and doors damaged by the blast. Port Neches Chief Paul Lamone says the fire is being contained and there is a 10 p.m. curfew for all residents. Barricades have been set up to prevent anyone from going down the streets where the smoke is still heavy. A family in the area says they have returned once the smoke has begun to clear and are eating their Thanksgiving dinner at home.
That's the only reason why I'm back. If I didn't think, I wouldn't have come back. I think they got it under control. When I seen it last night and early this morning, it was still going big. And then when I seen later on, they didn't got half of it put out.
Police will be patrolling the area to make sure homes that are damaged and also businesses that are damaged are secure. Live in Port Neches, I'm Tan Radford, Fox 4, working for you.
And as we look at our forecast heading into this Thanksgiving evening, we're looking at plenty of cloud cover and temperatures in the lower 60s. All the details on your forecast right after the break.
Download the new Fox 4 News app now. It's updated to provide essential news and information fast when you need critical information quickly. Sponsored by Home Furniture.